Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close-Up, meeting the need for Hungry Iowans, the nonprofit that's fighting food insecurity through food pantries and mobile sites in the Des Moines area, and why your help is needed now more than ever. Firefighters face a higher risk of cancer just for doing their jobs. Now, a measure in Congress could finally extend crucial death benefits to their families nationwide. The Iowa lawmakers supporting changing the rules and how firefighters here in Iowa are responding. The Trump administration is rolling out billions in relief payments, the new program set to bridge the gap for farmers, and why some say there's still a long ways to go.
You're watching KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. I'm Chief Political Reporter Amanda Rooker. Help will soon be on the way for farmers struggling due to the fallout from recent tariffs. Early last week, the Trump administration announced it's rolling out $12 billion in relief payments, with the money being released by the end of February. A lot of Iowa farmers are wondering how much money they'll get and what it means for their operations after several years of financial struggle.
Producers packed the hallways at the Iowa Farm Bureau's annual meeting last week, many of them looking for answers after the White House announced a new $12 billion farm aid package. It's supposed to provide short-term relief from high input costs, trade uncertainty, and years of losses.
Seed prices are up, fertilizer prices are pretty high, so it's going to be a tough go again next year.
That's Carl Dodge, a farmer from Northeast Iowa. Like many growers, he says the help is needed, but says it's far from a long-term fix.
Everybody's going to have to apply for what they can get, but we'll just see how it all pans out.
Under the plan announced by President Donald Trump, $11 billion will go toward one-time payments for row crop farmers, including corn and soybean growers in Iowa. The remaining $1 billion is set aside for specialty crops. The White House says payments will start going out in late February.
The details are scant so far, but by the end of the month, those will be released.
Iowa Farm Bureau economist Christopher Pudens says until then, it's not clear how much each farmer will get. Payments will be capped at $155,000 per farm or person, and to qualify, operations have to make less than $900,000 a year.
It's intended to be exactly what the name describes, a bridge from the financial difficulties this year to the more long-term support that's going to be provided by updates to the Farm Bill programs starting in the fall of 2026.
The federal help comes after several tough years in Iowa agriculture, and trade tensions have hit Iowa hard.
Row crop farmers in Iowa, specifically corn and soybeans, had the lowest years for net farm income that they've had in the past 15 years.
Soybean farmers have been caught in the crosshairs of Trump's trade war with China, the world's largest soybean buyer. After holding off for months, the country agreed to buy 12 million metric tons by the end of the year. But with a few weeks to go to that deadline, China hasn't purchased nearly enough.
The latest number that I've heard is 2 million metric tons, which is an increase over where we were a couple weeks ago. It's still nowhere near that 12 million metric tons.
Grant Kimberly with the Iowa Biodiesel Board says that gap, along with years of losses, add up fast.
$50 billion losses over the last 3 years.
Kimberly, who's also a farmer, says the aid will help, but isn't enough to offset how much farmers have lost.
In the short term, this bridge will help, but it does by no means make people whole.
The USDA says the payments are designed to help farmers until other investments take effect later this year, including increased reference prices for crops like corn and soybeans. But many in agriculture say there's still a bigger issue looming.
We still haven't passed the final farm bill. We need to finalize the final steps and get the whole thing over the finish line and have a brand new, completely finished farm bill here in the near future to be more modernized with what the realities of the marketplace that we see today.
The current downturn in Iowa's ag economy ripples across the state. Pudens says roughly 20% of Iowa jobs are tied to agriculture.
And this has bled over into other industries as well. More than 5,000 layoffs in ag and ag-adjacent industries in the past year and a half or so, with a multi-billion-dollar negative economic impact.
He says when farm income is tight, spending drops.
They spend less money on machinery, right? And so then the machinery manufacturers in the state they pull back on production and perhaps have to furlough folks. So there are these ripple effects that start at the farm gate.
Still, Pudens says most farmers would prefer long-term trade solutions over short-term aid.
Farmers would always prefer trade and new markets to aid, right? It's just that this year, with everything going on this payment will serve as a bridge into what is hopefully a long-term positive demand situation with that increased trade.
And farmers like Carl Dodge say that's the real goal: stability without relying on government help.
But ultimately, the long-term solution is less about a stopgap payment to help out in a time of need and more about just ongoing trade, fixing the problems that have been happening all along and having a brighter future so we don't need per acre payments and stuff like that.
And there is an important deadline coming up. The USDA says farmers have until 4 p.m. Central Time on December 19th to make sure their 2025 acreage reports are accurate. Now, farmers who qualify will receive payments by the end of February. A measure moving through Congress aims to expand benefits for families of firefighters who died from cancer. It's similar to a law that was passed here in Iowa during the last legislative session. KCCI's Kayla James explains how this legislation could help families across the country.
Overall, we're 6 to 7% higher of any cancer.
An elevated risk, Des Moines Professional Firefighters Union President Joe Van Hollen says, comes from toxins firefighters encounter on the job.
The things that we go into fires and that might be there, could be there, and we just don't know about.
Following multi-year lobbying efforts by fire unions across the state, Iowa first responders received disability coverage for all cancers instead of 14.
It certainly has given a lot of peace of mind and some, I think, satisfaction to the families of our fallen guys.
Peace of mind that could soon extend to firefighters nationwide. The National Defense Authorization Act, now moving through Congress, includes a measure to grant benefits to families of firefighters who die from occupational cancer. Right now, families only receive public safety officer benefits when a firefighter's death is tied to a specific emergency incident. Congressman Zach Nunn supports removing that requirement.
Trying to go back through the entire history to identify which chemical is associated with their cancer is unacceptable.
The bill would give firefighters battling cancer and their families more security, no matter what happens.
Nothing ever replaces them, but at least it helps them to not have to worry about some of their, financial burdens as they move forward.
In Des Moines, Kayla James, KCCI 8 News, Iowa's news leader.
The National Defense Authorization Act passed the U.S. House last week. The Senate is expected to take it up this week. Well, still to come on Close Up, after a lifetime of public service from a small Iowa farm to the world stage, Terry Branstad returns to the State House, this time as the guest of honor, the prestigious award presented to the country's longest-serving governor. And skyrocketing demand and shrinking resources are stretching food pantries everywhere. After the break, we'll hear from DMARC's new leader on how she's tackling the challenges and providing help to those in need in the Des Moines area. Welcome back to Close Up. The Des Moines Area Religious Council, or DMARC, is a nonprofit that helps provide equitable food access to food insecure Iowans through permanently placed food pantry sites, multiple mobile locations, and a food delivery service. It served more than 74,000 people in need last year, but this year has presented new challenges. This morning we have Kathy Underhill with us. She joined as DMARC CEO back in June. Now, before leading this organization, she spent many years working on the issue of hunger throughout her career. Kathy, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there's been a lot that's gone on in the past few months with food insecurity. Since you've started to see, the leader in June, what's kind of surprised you the most about, and just what has your time been like?
It has been wonderful. I love Des Moines, and it's been truly a great experience to be here. In terms of work, I think hunger is similar everywhere you go. There's this notion about who is hungry, who's experiencing food insecurity, and there's this thought that it's like an us and them, like it's some other type of person. And the reality is, it's the person that's tending your baby at childcare, it's the person that's delivering your packages, it's the cashier at the big box store. There's really no us and them, there's just us.
Yeah, what are you seeing at food pantry sites right now?
We're seeing increased need for sure. November was completely bonkers. With the government shutdown and SNAP benefits not going out, we broke records day after day, seeing about 32,000 people just in the month of November.
Wow. What is the need, what is December looking like?
December, the beginning was relatively calm, and now it's starting to ramp up again. So we expect to see a lot of folks coming through over the next month and onward.
You talked about the us versus them kind of mentality. What do you wish Iowans knew, both just about food insecurity in general and about the types of people that are showing up to the DMARC pantries?
Sure. So most of the folks that come to the DMARC network for food are either working or looking for work. They're not really looking for a handout, they're looking to get by. And I think, again, it's primarily low-wage workers that are operating on a razor-thin budget, and they're one curveball away from needing the food pantry. So that could be a car repair or a sick child, and that tips them over into not being able to afford food.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the fact that, household budgets are stretched right now. Food prices are still high.
Yes.
How is that showing up in the choices that families are making?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you tend to pay all the bills that come in the mail, whether that's electronic mail or paper mail. So you pay all those, and food is almost like discretionary funds. You pay your rent, you pay your utilities, and then kind of whatever's left is what you have for food. So again, people find themselves coming into the food pantry to make up the difference as a supplement.
Now, DMARC itself kind of operates on a different model than kind of traditional. Walk us through what that model looks like and why it's important to have that.
Sure. So DMARC is an interfaith organization that really was brought together to solve community problems or engage with community. And so the big thing that they've worked on for the last 50 years has been hunger relief. They have a network. We have a network of 14 food pantries. Those are, places like Urbandale and Johnston and Catholic Charities, pantries that people know and love. And we also have mobile markets, as you said, and delivery. What DMARC does is we raise funds and then we buy wholesale. So buy the big semi-load of, say, corn or green beans, so we get it at a great price. And then we deliver it to those pantries free of charge. And it's a reliable source of food. So it's not just waiting on random donations. We will always have vegetables, we will always have fruit, we will always have pasta or rice, we'll always have meat, those kind of things. So it's stability in the midst of something that doesn't feel very stable for folks.
Absolutely. For Iowans who may be struggling to get by but are hesitant to reach out for help, what do you want them to know about what happens when you walk through the door at one of these DMARC pantries?
Sure, that's a great question. And what happens is you're welcomed, that we are glad that you're there, and we are there to help you. And so you walk in, we have a very short intake form, and then it's set up like a grocery store. So you can shop, and there's a number of items per person in the household. So if it's a family of 4, it's X amount of items, and so you can shop the aisles and pick out what kind of soup would you like, what kind of vegetables would you like, what kind of pasta or rice, what kind of cereal, those kind of things.
If someone's interested about getting connected, where should they find more information?
Sure. So our website is really the best place to go, and that's dmarcunited.org.
Wonderful. Well, Kathy, we're going to continue chatting about your leadership of this organization and what comes next as we head into the new year. We'll be right back after that break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Close Up. Kathy Underhill, the CEO of DMARC, is with us this morning to talk about the organization and how it's been helping fill the gap for Central Iowans who are struggling to put food on the table. Kathy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Beyond the physical, food and having that there, what have been the biggest challenges that DMARC has had to navigate right now?
Food prices certainly are, because we buy about half of our food we purchase wholesale. So with rising food prices, that hits our budget too. So certainly, funding is always something that's on our minds.
Got it. Anything else kind of beyond that?
It's really been about, being sure that the community knows about this resource. With the SNAP payments not going out and the government shutdown, there were a lot of folks that had never come to a food pantry before that needed the service. So being sure that people know where to go if they find themselves in need of extra food.
And we know things are kind of constantly changing when it comes to the policy level, both at the state level and the federal level. How is policy shifting the work that you do on the ground?
It has a profound impact, and I think most folks that are in the community that might be engaged with hunger work, whether that's community fridges or food rescue or volunteering at a food pantry, those kind of things, or donors, they don't understand the profound impact that policy has. For example, there's new restrictions on SNAP as part of HR 1 that was passed this summer. Folks that are immigrants and refugees no longer can benefit from SNAP. Folks that experience homelessness, veterans, youth aging out of foster care, they now have only a 3-month limit to find work. And I know folks that have been looking for work for months in Des Moines. So really, really challenging. And then of course on the state level, we've had changes. The big one that's going into effect January 1st is the changes in what you can purchase with your SNAP benefits.
And how will that change the work that you do with filling the gap in food insecurity need?
So it won't, because a lot of the food that is being eliminated is not food that we stock in our warehouse and in our food pantries, but it's going to impact the people that we serve quite dramatically. It's going to be very, I think, frustrating for retailers, for the cashiers and the frontline folks, and it's going to create a lot of shame and confusion for the consumer. I was looking at kind of what's going to be allowed and not allowed. And for example, a cup of fruit, if the store cuts up fruit, puts it in a little container with a spoon, that you can no longer purchase with SNAP benefits. If that same store bakes a cake and serves it with a fork, that is allowed. So it's very confusing what will be allowed and what won't. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of issues.
Now, looking kind of overall at how DMARC operates, a lot of how DMARC operates relies on community support. What does that community support look like, and how important is it to your organization?
It's everything to our organization, and that's volunteers that are volunteering in the 14 pantries. We always need more volunteers. It's funding and donors, and it's advocates, people that are willing to join us and contacting legislators about food-related policy.
And then looking ahead to next year, what are you focusing on as you lead DMARC forward?
Yeah, so I think we've done some technology upgrades. So I inherited a great organization, but I've come in and really looked at how can we optimize the work that we already do. I'm looking ahead at things like this summer. Is Healthy Kids Iowa going to be brought back for the summer? That's still a big question mark and something we have deep concerns about. What will the Farm Bill look like that's coming up, or child nutrition reauthorization? So really, and of course food prices. So really looking at that policy landscape and how especially Iowa state policy can help alleviate hunger and not create a bigger problem.
Walk us through your background before coming to DMARC and how it's kind of shaping your experience at the organization.
Sure. So I have spent a little over 20 years working in hunger relief. I've worked at a large food bank. I have run a large food pantry. I worked at a private foundation giving away money as a program officer to hunger and homelessness nonprofits. I founded an organization called Hunger Free Colorado that works on federal and state policy and systems change. And then the last 6 years, I worked for the state of Colorado, managing 9 federal nutrition programs that was about $80 or $90 million worth of USDA ag product.
Got it. A lot of varied career in all sorts of different things.
Yeah, I've worked on it from about every angle you can.
Well, we only have about 30 seconds left, but what should Iowans know to be able to help, DeMarc?
I think, sign up for advocacy alerts, sign up for the newsletter to stay informed, or follow us on social media. Lead with compassion and not judgment, and help where you can, because many hands make light work. So if we all do a little, we'll be able to solve this together.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next, he never lost an election, led Iowa through good times and bad, and took his public service all the way to Beijing. The emotional moment Iowa says thank you to its longest-serving governor, Terry Branstad. Welcome back to Close Up. After a lifetime of public service, including more than 2 decades leading Iowa, Ambassador and former Governor Terry Branstad received the state's highest civilian award last week. It's the first time the Iowa Award has been presented in nearly a decade. The ceremony brought Branstad back to the State House, this time as the guest of honor.
Chairs stretched wall to wall beneath the State House rotunda. Lawmakers, former staffers, friends, Democrats and Republicans, all there for Terry Branstad.
Thank you, Iowa.
And Iowa thanked him back, awarding Branstad with the Iowa Award. It's the state's highest civilian honor.
Good to see you.
Branstad's story started on a small family farm and stretches from the state legislature to the governor's office and eventually the world stage. When he first ran for governor in 1982, Branstad was already touting a commitment to civic duty.
I've been interested in public service and working with people all my life, and I think that's one of the greatest strengths.
That message resonated again and again. Branstad won 19 elections, a fact he reminded the crowd Thursday with a smile.
Needless to say, I never lost an election. We actually lived more time in Terrace Hill than any other place.
Across 22 years as governor, Branstad steered Iowa through economic challenges, worked to reduce unemployment, and pushed to diversify the state's economy. In 2017, he left Terrace Hill for Beijing, serving as U.S. ambassador to China. When he came home, the public service didn't stop. Branstad became an ambassador in residence at Drake University and took the helm of the World Food Prize.
Your legacy is and always has been leaving things better than you found them.
It was Branstad's former second-in-command who presented the award. Now Iowa's governor, Kim Reynolds, honored the man who shaped her own path in public service.
I watched and I learned as you led with courage, you made tough decisions with grace, always doing the right thing because it was the right thing, and always, always putting Iowans first.
Decades after first stepping into public office, Terry Branstad's influence still echoes through the State House and through the state he's shaped for generations.
Now, Branstad is the 25th Iowan to receive this award. He joins the ranks of a small group, including former President Herbert Hoover, former Governor Robert D. Ray, and Dr. Norman Borlaug, all recognized for a life of public service and achievement. Thanks for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. We'll see you back here next Sunday. Have a great day.